Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where we are going to religiously make fun of both Kev and Travis for not seeing a cultural icon of a movie. I'm Angelus de Mortiel, together with Kev. I haven't seen Super Troopers N7.
Yeah, see, that takes away from my hentai time. We talked about this. / praise Kratos. Pony up.
Xaiphen's also here, who has seen it, so he's
all right,
seen
man.
it.
But he has not seen a video game in years.
It's not so funny, meow, is it?
Nay!
And then we also have Death Shadow 9, who has also not seen Super Troopers.
I've seen boobs, and it's all that matters.
You kept being the guy to call somebody a chicken fucker.
Big fucker, you're right.
Do you need assistance? Do you need assistance?
Bear.
Bear fucker.
If you're fucking bears, you're on your own.
They don't even know the reference, so
Man, bear, pig,
oh,
fucker.
you guys need to get off the podcast right now. Go watch that movie, and then come back when you're done. Like
The
you,
podcast will be over by then.
your life is a worse place for not having yet seen it.
I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. So in any case, no, Grim. What? Grim is drunk. It's like 9 a.m.
Grim
Grim is already drunk.
Up your-
By the way, the link you put out for the podcast on Twitter,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that link is bad. The link doesn't work.
Which link?
Bad and kind.
So we are live for the Pixel Crashers podcast. Tune in, join in. Bad link.
What? Oh, you're right. Oh shit, guys. I done fucked up.
You had one job.
Did he accidentally link Super Troopers instead?
Yeah, I accidentally linked it
Okay,
to
no,
a pirated
link
version of
to
Super
one instead.
Troopers. It's it's good fun. So in any case, while I'm fixing that link and all that good stuff, Kev, what have you been playing this week?
Like Grim said, I've been playing with Trish. I've been playing The Witcher 3. Witcher 2. I've been playing Telltale's Batman. That's fun. I want to finish up Witcher 2 because I want to get into Dragon Ball Fighters, and I want to get into Persona 5. And Persona 5 is basically going to be what I'm playing for the rest of the year because that game is like 800 hours long. But it's also supposed to be glorious.
I don't think Persona 5 is that long at all, like whatsoever, even remotely.
It's supposed to be mad long.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
like,
really not.
And it's long.
It's really not long. You're gonna be disappointed by the length of that. It's like 20 hours long.
Mm. And we go to hell on the beat.
And is Kev like retweeting porn on Twitter?
Yes.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah, apparently it's 95 hours.
95 hours. That is not. The fuck is he talking?
So are you excited for? Are you? I don't want to spoil it. In Persona 5.
Persona 5.
Persona 5 is going to be glorious.
So by the way, I just wanted to point out to Kev. Here's how Persona 5 ends. I could. That would be a dick move.
Speaking of
We already
dicks,
know how it ends. With lots of galloping.
Persona.
Oh, yeah.
It's Persona. There's some drama. A person dies, and someone makes a monologue that is literally 5.5 hours long, but broken up into 16,000 episodes. Like literally, they give their speech in 5-minute increments, and then you have to wait a week for the next segment of the speech. Oh wait, this isn't Dragon Ball. Sorry, I got confused.
Yeah.
Good times. Xaiphen, what have you been up to?
I've done any new for me games. I've been cycling between 3 different games. Recently, getting back into Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
As we get embarrassed live on the stream by somebody who's far more experienced at the game than us, whatever.
Yeah,
I
that guy.
admitted to being a noob.
But yeah, still playing the Warframe. I don't think I'm ever gonna stop. It's always gonna be there on the back end. It's like kind of like just owning a computer.
It's
At
kind of
this
like
point.
seeing Super Troopers. I mean, it's almost like it has
Oh,
become just a part of you.
It's
yeah,
really seeing boobs for the first time. We used
and
to want to keep seeing them.
I'm playing
Always.
Frontier Defense on that. It's
Hmm.
fun.
So real quick note. No, Sea of Thieves to me just screamed griefing simulator. Kev would
See it
probably enjoy
trash.
it.
See it trash.
No,
Outbox done.
Kev would like it because it's more or less you team up with people who inevitably are going to try to fuck you over. So I'm
Why
not
would I
too
like
keen on
that?
that, but Kev probably would be. He likes
Why?
games like that.
What game do I like that?
No, that's how you play games. You
It
know,
is.
it's a game where you tell someone you stole their kill and they'll lock you in the brig and steal all your gold.
Well, that's what you get for not stealing their gold and their kill, and then killing them,
Yeah,
and their bed,
yeah, that's true.
and teabagging their corpse.
So
Or you don't need to do check.
so Travis, how about that that really riveting news about the that tragic story about the lost turtle that you were telling us about?
Oh yeah.
Is this the Elizabeth Smart Turtle I was talking about?
It was a very riveting story. Feel free to relay that.
I think it was something like a lost tortoise found 350 yards away after 6 months.
God, that's such a guys that is such a shocking story. It is.
Well, more people should be sympathetic to the turtle. I feel like the turtle isn't getting enough of this.
I feel like I feel
Tortoise.
I feel like that we need to subjugate all other species except for that tortoise specifically, because I feel like that it is living under an oppressive regime of social constructs.
Worse than Konami?
Well, you know how people think about tortoises in regards to, rabbits, which
Yeah,
I'm sure you're very familiar with.
it's such a stereotype. Like it is it's a social zeitgeist because that's a buzzword that I can throw
What?
in there.
The tortoise is absolutely slower than the hare, and it's raced to death
Yes,
because those fuckers take forever.
I
Yes.
just want to know how tasty the tortoise would be after coming out of my oven.
I'm just
I
letting
hear,
it
I hear
awkward.
tortoise and turtle tastes like chicken. I'd like to find out.
So there's not as much to turtles as there is to like say snake or other lizards. So personally, I would go with snake first. That and the fact of snakes are just, I know there's a snake owner out there that's like, how dare he say that?
Because it's eat the snakes before they eat you.
Yeah. And my thing is, if you're gonna eat a snake, you have to hunt that fucker yourself. You get out there with a damn knife, and you're like
Knife?
facing
Oh,
off with that rattlesnake.
Man,
That's-
I'm going out there with a shotgun, no scoping.
Hey
Hot
guys,
style.
has anybody else here actually eaten snake?
I have.
Or am I the only one? Okay, I was gonna say.
Good,
it's pretty
good old New Orleans.
It
You can get
like-
all kinds of fun food in New Orleans.
It's pretty good. I'm about it.
Actually, now that I think about it, it may not have been snake.
It was
you,
man snake.
you really have you really
They
don't know
said
what
it
you're
was
eating.
snake.
They
Well,
said it was snake. They said it was
They-
snake. But then
the
again,
snake-
that guy didn't speak very good English
I
or
was gonna
any
say-
language.
saying sounded like they were saying snake.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he said something like, "You got this snake." I was like,
Well, stop buying shit from Boomhauer. You'll be alright.
"God damn it!
I
Why do
hope
they
we don't
always
have
have?"
any audience in Louisiana, guys?
French.
People in Louisiana who know how Creoles can be, they're probably because I don't know too many Creoles that have internet, so I think we're safe.
So much
If,
racism.
if you're
I have
Creole, I
discrimination.
apologize.
Oh man.
we mix French with native Southern American.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
It is. And it's all Mort's fault.
And I say that as somebody who loves Creole music.
I love
So,
Creole music. I love Creole food. and I just can't understand
But
what
do
the
you
hell
love Creole
people
women?
are
That's the
saying.
question. If you don't love Creole women, it doesn't matter.
I mean, I do that as well. So I mean,
So you love all the women, Travis. We know this.
yeah, I don't discriminate. Kev.
They're all the same to Travis.
Travis
You
is.
hear that? You hear that, ladies? You are all the same in Travis's eyes. You're all beautiful.
You're all beautiful to him.
Those of you who need help translating Travis's words, he's a player.
Player, man,
No,
whore. You know, it's all
he
the same.
genuinely cares for all human beings, and females particularly in a very, he cares for them very, very carefully. And
I mean,
so,
those don't have to be like mutually exclusive things.
What do you think about caring for them?
Grim said you're racist, Kev.
I guess too.
I don't know.
Is it really
He just-
racist if I just hate on dumb people?
Yeah, you're racist. So in any case,
games that I played. Yeah.
games, yeah.
Yeah. So I've most of my time has been spent taking up like my extra non-college time has been taken up with tabletop, which I'm still doing with Dinnick and Major. And
Oh yeah, that's
Hat.
right.
Dan.
He just got done with his move or whatever. So,
Yeah. Dinnick and Major and Hat and Dan. And that's going rather well. We just started our second arc of Blades in the Dark, which I think is going to be really fun. I'm super excited.
Well, now that Major has to re-roll his character.
Right. Yeah, when
He
Major
himself off.
sacrificed himself to a forgotten god, that was a good time.
What game is this? Did he sacrifice himself?
It's D&D, so Kev, it's something. It involves.
It's
like,
not on PlayStation, so it's irrelevant.
It's not on PlayStation, and it involves you to actually have imagination and creative thinking.
So yeah, in our
imagination.
in our new arc, we're arms dealers. So I'm just constantly imagining myself as Nick Cage.
Oh God. No. That was a good. That was one of Nick Cage's few good
Better
movies.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Unlike the second Ghost Rider movie, which was the fuck.
They made a second one.
Yeah, don't pretend there wasn't. Because
Are you
Exactly.
Drive angry? Because technically that wasn't Ghost Rider, even though it looked like it was.
no, there was Ghost Rider, Angel of Vengeance, which Nick Cage, I'm pretty certain, was high on coke the entire movie.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Nick Cage is
Yeah,
always
he's
high on
gonna get
coke.
high on coke.
There's
I think
several
that's
movies.
Where do
Yeah.
you think it came from?
Well, I think Face Off was a great example of John Travolta and Nick Cage both snorting coke at the same time and seeing who can be crazier.
I mean, I'll sign
Was it
up.
off the back of a DualShock 4? Because if it wasn't, it doesn't matter.
Kev, why are you such
You gotta use the touchpad.
Oh, okay. So I think Kev is just he's doing. I think he's doing it to play off Grim because Grim said PlayStation is trash.
I'm bought a PS4 though.
Well, right.
Grim has everything. He just chooses to be an Xbot.
I
Oh,
don't know why Xbox has no games.
Yeah, I don't know what games he's actually playing. I think he just sits in front of the Xbox and stares at it, and says, "Oh, it's so pretty." The box. Anyway, so just to actually add input into this, I've actually been playing a few new games. Well, I think most of it was that I got all sorts of shiny new characters for Rainbow Six Siege, which was nice. But and I got to play only one of them last time we streamed it because Hibana is just way too damn good, and it's kind of unfair. However,
things up.
yeah. So then there was also the free games off of Humble Bundle, the Amnesia games. I played those for
Free games, no subscription required. Gotta love that.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah, PC doesn't get free games though, Kev. There's no good deals on like you can.
I mean, you get a bunch of shovelware.
I mean, if you
Sony
play
gives out the
for
best
PS
games.
Plus, you get free games all the time, even though you're technically renting them and paying money to rent them. Because
No, not because I was gonna pay for my PSN anyway.
Yeah, because paying to use your own internet. I mean, what's the worst that could
Are
happen?
you just poor? Can you not afford it?
No, I prefer to spend my money into PC where my money's actually being used wisely.
Yeah, with those $5,000 graphics cards.
Oh, so did you hear Micro Center is saying if you are going to use your graphics card for gaming, they will charge you the standard MSRP.
Have you read
That's it.
How do you prove that? Like what?
I think it's pretty obvious if you are buying one graphics card, you're not going to be using it for mining.
Don't
I
tell me how to
mean,
use my computer.
Yeah. Oh, unless you go to one of
Don't tell me how to live my
the
life.
many malicious websites that actually mine cryptocurrency using your computer's hardware through the browser. Because that shit ain't shady at all.
I think Pirate Bay is actually doing that now.
Very
Or they have.
possibly.
Actually-
There's a it's essentially a browser ad extension that
Right.
a lot of sites will go, and you can actually disable it through your Windows host file. But that's yeah. Anyway, I've been soaking almost all my time into Warhammer 2 because god damn, that game is so good.
It's still not
Jesus.
XCOM.
Like, so Warhammer 2, Warhammer Total War Warhammer 2 is pretty much an expansion pack on the first game. It's, however, a $60 expansion pack, which I think is, to me, a little bit eh. I mean, it's a full game unto itself, so it's like kind of an expand-alone, but essentially when you buy it, it checks the purchases of the previous Total War Warhammer game and adds those purchases into the second game to unlock content. So essentially, it's kind of like it's its own game, but then it's an expansion at the same time. So it's kind of weird how that works. But it's still like the main Mortal Empires campaign is so fucking huge. There's like, I hit enter to end my turn, and it takes like 5 minutes to roll through all the goddamn other factions that it's playing as. Yeah, so that's good fun. And of course,
So is the expansion worth it?
so this is where I have the tough time on there. So I got the first Warhammer game on sale for like, I want to say it was like $20 or something like that. And I felt that was a fair price for the first game because a lot of the criticism of the first game was it was essentially a DLC selling platform because you bought it and it had like 3 factions you could play as. And then, oh yeah, you want to play as this other very commonly played faction in the Warhammer space? That's another $5 or $10 and so on. Which I thought was pretty scuzzy that they did that, especially for the Chaos Warriors, which is kind of like I don't know, it's a mainstay to the universe, I think. But the second game, they kind of were very much, they took that feedback and were very much listening to it. And they pretty much said, so we want to do the game right. They essentially wanted to make Destiny 2. How they did Destiny 2 being pretty much a Destiny 1.5. But except for they realized that it was a Destiny 1.5 and they said, yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and account for all your purchases for the past game and roll them into this game. So you don't have to re-buy the stuff again. Yeah. So if you buy one of the games for $60, which is more than likely going to be the second game because it's newer, and you get the first game on sale for extreme discount, at least I would say $20 or cheaper, then yes, it's worth it.
I mean,
buying both games,
you pay more than $20 for your games anyway.
Anyway, if you buy both games at $60 each, that's too much. I think that's kind of a ripoff. I don't think it's worth that, especially when you account for the DLC in the first game, like the 20,000 different little pieces of DLC they have in there that cost you a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there.
They should be happy it's not loot box based.
No, I'm happy it's not loot box based. Very much
because
so.
that game has a shit ton of DLC.
Yeah. The biggest complaint I had was the fact that they had the gall to charge you $5 for blood and gore. Yeah. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I got my blood and gore for $1, but I still don't feel proud that I paid for it.
Yeah.
Even though I did it off Steam trading cards on Steam.
Yeah, that I'm right there with you. Now the thing is that if you bought the Blood for the Blood God DLC for the first Warhammer Total War game, it rolls into the second one as well, so you don't have to buy it again for the second game. It says that it's a separate DLC, and I could certainly pay for it, but it doesn't make me. But yeah, so that's fun thing.
See, this was PlayStation. They wouldn't have done that to you.
No, no.
sure.
Instead, they would have never put it on sale, so I could have never gotten it for $20.
But PSN has great sales that rival Steam.
Huh.
true.
That's okay. Grim is like, Major's
You're
still pirating
f-
games, isn't he? No, Major doesn't really pirate many games anymore because he has a job and he can afford to play them. So, Kev has no
I
shame.
don't know. Major moves the goalposts. I was still shocked at the way he justified pirating Fallout 4.
I don't know. He paid for it now.
Yeah, he did eventually, but he was justifying it at first.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
In any case, though, so the first actual yeah, Grim, you can go fuck yourself. Ain't nobody buying No Man's Sky for $60.
I wouldn't buy it for $10.
I wouldn't buy it for if they paid me money for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I'd play. I'd pay.
I wouldn't even take it for free off PSN at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Supposedly they made a lot of updates to it to make it feel like a more full experience. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, you had your chance. You fucking blew it. What you did to clean it up, I feel like, is your just desserts for cleaning up your mess and giving the people who bought the game what they paid for. But buying it new now? No, I wouldn't recommend anybody buy it new now. Yeah, I know it's $60 pretty much everywhere, I think, unless it's on No Man's Sky. And then
we lost this.
Travis decided he was done with this. He was upset at our
I'm
bash.
still here. I'm just trying to fix my camera.
He's trying to hustle the women out of the room.
I mean
Mhm.
that too, yeah.
Well, I mean, she's done what she was there for. You know how Travis is. Pump and dump.
Well, we didn't know what was going on the whole time.
She was just under the desk. Now she's gone.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh, did you at least give her bus fare?
No, come on now.
Good job.
What do you
I
think
thought
this
you
is? Good God. Oh, so in any case, so the first thing I did want to talk about today here is I wanted to talk about some good damage control here, and I also wanted to applaud people on like comments in Kotaku calling the shit out. So there was an article that like an op-ed that Kotaku made recently that essentially where they're defending and damage controlling for BioWare and for just developers in general. Is a title called BioWare doubles down on Anthem as pressure mounts. And it is this excessively long thing talking about all of the story of Anthem and where it's from here and changes, because Anthem was delayed until 2019. And that was
They delay Anthem inevitably.
or just not put it out at all. Anyway,
That's what I mean.
there was a particular paragraph in there that was just, oh, I love this so much. And I quote, "And then there's the toxicity problem. As video game pundit sees any opportunity to stoke the anger at big publishers. Two people who have worked on Anthem both expressed anxiety to me about the way some big YouTubers have spread misinformation and inflammatory rhetoric about EA, saying that it has demoralizing effects on the people on the ground level. To the people that work for EA, the publisher isn't just a cold corporate master. It's a complicated machine that, yes, is concerned first and foremost with generating revenue for investors, but also supports thousands of people in many tangible and intangible ways. People close to BioWare, along with many other developers I've talked to in recent months, Worry that the commentary from some of YouTube's loudest voices has eliminated any nuance and made companies like EA seem like Disney villains.
I mean, when you get voted the worst company in America multiple times in a row.
Oh, I bet you they're gonna get voted again this year. Especially at the Comic-Con.
I bet you money if there's a worst company in America for 2017, they've cinched it. They've locked it down. Like
Bank of America, maybe.
no, I mean they've got it on lock. 2017 was a banner
I
word.
want to make it international so they can really feel the burn.
Yeah, like so here's my thing. And I'll see if I can find the exact comment, but someone made a comment that I was just like, dude, you nailed it. You hit the nail right on the thumb. And it was essentially like my major issue with the way that that this article goes into everything is the fact that it's pretty much saying that don't be angry at BioWare, guys. They're people too. And it's
Well,
like
we're all people. Some people are assholes.
well, it's the thing is that it's like as a consumer, it ain't my fucking problem. Like that is not my concern that if their feelings are hurt because they're working for a shitty company.
But it should be.
So, my question is, like, has there, like, I took like a phone call, so I didn't hear you. So, has there been any like drama involving Anthem specifically?
So
The fact that it exists and that it was made to sacrifice Mass Effect, maybe?
well,
I mean,
yeah. The drama around it is essentially that, from what it appears, and this to me would seem like a logical business decision based entirely upon monetary, monetary gain as opposed to sentimentality. That essentially Mass Effect Andromeda was gimped and thrown to the lowest newbie developers and the most inexperienced development team at BioWare in order for all of the top developers, all of the big names in the studio could go work on Anthem.
Oh, okay.
Which Anthem, from all appearances, appears to be a game kind of aimed at the Destiny market. Had it released in early 2018, like first quarter, I would say, of 2018, it could have hit actually big. If it came out as a solid game, solid experience, it actually would have had some serious success. The reason why is because Destiny 2 has been fucking over its player base. All of the stout Destiny fans are sick of that game. They're tired of how Bungie has been handling that game and how little Bungie seems to be understanding what the problem is, right? And so
What the problem has been since the beginning of the release.
But it's just essentially culminating. And if we saw Anthem come out like next month, it would hit it big because all of those disenfranchised Destiny 2 players would flock to that shit, right?
Well, yeah, now they've all flocked to the Division.
Yeah, but well, my thing is though is that it's been delayed into 2019. I mean, who's to say what can happen between now and then? That's a long time.
What's the game space going to be like in a year?
Yeah, so but the whole point of Anthem seems to be geared at that games as a service, open world MMO shooter. Division.
I think that's why they delayed it. They're like, oh well, we see what happened to Destiny. We don't want that shit happening to us.
Yeah, I think
especially let's be real. If Anthem flops, we're not getting Dragon Age 4.
That is entirely probable. I won't lie. The thing is that as I put it, whenever I was having a kind of debate and I was criticizing what someone else had said, but I put it out there that SOTOR makes BioWare good money, which is why they have one studio that is at least fairly well dedicated to it. At least a large portion of people at that studio are fairly well dedicated to SOTORs because it still makes money. However, after I made that statement and made that point, I was hearing more about how that BioWare may be considering phasing out SOTOR.
I heard they were putting the SOTOR team onto Anthem also.
Well, no. So BioWare Austin has a lot of people, some of them are pretty much constant on the SOTOR project, and then some of them will be on SOTOR if they have nothing else to do, and then they might get assigned to other projects as needed, if they're needed on Mass Effect Andromeda or Dragon Age 4
Well, they were
or
clearly
Anthem.
needed for Mass Effect Andromeda. They were
Yeah.
clearly needed.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem with Mass Effect Andromeda was that the leadership wasn't there. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Mac Walters is necessarily bad at writing in the writing role he had for Mass Effect 3. He wasn't a leader, and it showed. But yeah, so
I don't know. In retrospect, I still love Mass Effect 3, the single player included.
oh no,
I still think it's a masterpiece.
I wasn't saying that Mass Effect 3 was bad. I was saying that his leadership on Andromeda was bad.
Oh yeah,
I think just the release of Andromeda was a mistake, right? Like if they were, I think the better play, maybe, and I know EA just wanted to milk the series for money, but the better play would be to shelve Mass Effect for a little bit. Like, don't come out with Andromeda. Let the IP sit for a little bit. You know, you
They
just
did
finished
5 years.
yeah, you just finished the trilogy. Did they let it? Was it 5 years after Mass
It
Effect
was
3?
5 years.
Really? Oh wow.
2012.
Yep.
Mm. But even then, I think I would have like waited until after Anthem. Like if that was the excuse that they were like working on Anthem, I would have had like the lower developer work on a different, not beloved IP, and then just come out after Anthem, right?
I'm wondering if the reason they had Edmonton working on Anthem is because maybe they were having series fatigue because they worked on that IP for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, for sure.
Only Mass Effect.
And that's the thing, is that it is completely fair for a studio of developers to say, you know, I don't want to keep milking this franchise. I mean, we saw the exact same thing happen to Bungie back in the mid 2000s, right? So they
when they wanted to make Destiny to get off Halo.
Well, no, they just wanted to get off Halo. They didn't really, I don't think at that point consider anything else that they had. They were just pretty much like.
My understanding was that they did present Microsoft with Destiny at first, and they wanted to make it as an exclusive, and it didn't. They said no, they wouldn't let them do another IP, so they tried to get their independence. That's the story that how I've heard it.
Well, essentially, the thing is that I can't remember if Bungie was actually subsidiary of Microsoft, or they just went to Microsoft for funding because Microsoft had funded them in the past, and they pitched an idea to them, and Microsoft was like, is this another Halo game? No? Okay, well, we don't want it. You know, and then they sought out other funding, and obviously came to Activision, and Activision said, yeah, you know, we'll fund that. But my thing is that essentially they were getting tired of making Halo games. They felt like they brought the trilogy to a nice sound conclusion, and they were done with it. And Microsoft was like, so we want you to make more Halo. And they're like, well, no. and some of the people on there said, yeah, no, we'll still keep making Halo, and they broke off and founded 343 Studios. But you know, and probably other people mixed in with that. But the whole point is that they were getting fatigue, I'm certain, from the series as well after 3 games. So that is really my big thing, is that I am sympathetic to the series fatigue. My thing is that I do not have sympathy whenever you say, oh, these people spreading hate about EA is making me anxious. It's like, if you don't like how people are talking about a company you work for, there might be a reason why they're talking about the company you work for in that way. There might be a reason why EA won Worst Company in America 2 years in a row. It's because they're a bad company. They have put greed above everything else. Like, corporations are all about earning their money. That's fine. Got to have it in balance.
Right. We get that.
Yeah, and that's that. I think that's my major issue on there, is the fact that they're just like, they're trying to defend the fact that you're working for a shitty company. If you feel anxious about people insulting the company you work for, and you can't justify away why people are talking bad about that company, probably means that company is crappy. If you don't want to be a part of that, you need to walk the fuck out the door and go find another job. Developers are in demand. If you don't want to work for another AAA developer studio,
Developers.
yeah,
Anyways.
yeah, I'm just like, you can start up your own project if you want. You
Yeah.
ain't gotta work for nobody.
I'd
Work for
love to
yourself.
have a crowdfunded Mass Effect game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's really like I guess my previous point about like the waiting until after Anthem was done to create another Mass Effect is like, and you know, I haven't really played outside of like mostly like I've done a little bit of the single player of 1 and 3, but I haven't really gone through any of them other than the multiplayer. But from what I've read about this series, it seems like 3, despite its, you know, detractors, would have been a good place to halt the series for a while and maybe consider coming back to it at a much later date, even more than 5 years, and like having, you know, like a remake, or, you know, like bring it back as a classic, kind of wait until it's a classic title and then.
I think it already is a classic title, but that's me. I think all three of them
I think
are.
it is. Yeah, for sure.
I think it might be a fair idea for them to say, you do a remaster of Mass Effect 1.
Right.
You know, since the nice thing about Mass Effect 1 or Mass Effect 2 is the fact that they are already fully voice acted, so you don't necessarily have to do re-recording on the voice acting, unless you really wanted to clean up. What the hell's the guy's name? The guy who played Mail Shep. His
Mark
acting.
Mir?
Yeah, Mark Mir. His work didn't really pick up for Mail Shepherd until, you know, Mass Effect 2. He started to pick up a bit. In Mass Effect 3, he was just on point. But the first game, he was a little drier on the voice acting. If they wanted to re-record that, that's fine. But otherwise, you don't need to. You can just
This is
update
EA.
the assets.
They're not going to put money into cleaning that up.
Yeah, no. My thing is, there would be a huge value proposition for it, because can you play Mass Effect 1 on PS4?
Nope.
So,
Well, yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did put the yeah.
It would be a chance for somebody like me who hasn't played the series, and the series is a little bit dated, to maybe try and get back into it.
Yeah.
You know?
What I would love to see them do, if they are going to remaster it, maybe even go in and clean up the gun mechanics, because I think the gun mechanics in the first one are particularly sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
How about using the mechanics of like Mass Effect 3 gun mechanics in Mass Effect 1 or something like that?
2, 3, or even Andromeda. I don't think the gun mechanics in 2 are that bad. I think Andromeda has the best gun mechanics.
Yeah, honestly, now the thing is I think the damage balance was a little off for Andromeda, but as far as the way that the game actually played, your handling and that sort of thing, I felt like Andromeda was pretty well handled. It was pretty much just everything else in the game that I had a problem with.
My only real beef with Andromeda, I think, well, beyond the story, I just think was kind of and I think they were trying to rehash the story of the original trilogy, and they didn't do it very well.
So they essentially took the story of Mass
pulled a
Effect 2. That's what they did. They took the story of Mass Effect 2, which to me is like, I guess, and I have this written out.
It's been changed to protect their identities.
Yeah, well,
Pretty much.
I said, I wrote out this huge like thing about Dragon Age, or Mass Effect Andromeda, and problems I had with it. But the story, it was essentially like the way the story played out felt a lot like Mass Effect 2. The difference is that Mass Effect 2 was the second game in the trilogy, so you already had that connection to a lot of the characters. Like Alec Ryder dying was just like,
yes,
whatever. It's
on top of that, it's considered the best game in the series. If you've ever played Mass Effect, if you've played any of them, you probably played Mass Effect 2.
The thing is that the reason why Mass Effect 2 was so great, the actual base storyline in that game was pretty fucking weak. I mean, let's get real there.
I like the base story.
Yeah, but it was really what really made that game was the companion stories.
Yes.
You know, and of course, the best companion of them all was Jacob.
Yeah. You said Jack wrong.
I said Jacob because he.
Because I think Jacob was universally hated.
Can we talk about the stereotype of a black guy having daddy issues? I'm just saying.
Having daddy issues, cheating on Shepard.
that was a horrible. Anyway, point is though.
I'm like, yeah, it just made me. I was bitter, but with Bioware for that about for a minute. Not Jacob.
Jacob.
You put one black dude in the game. Well, I guess two give Anderson.
Yeah.
And then completely just make him a trope.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, the thing is that what really made Mass Effect 2 and what distinctified that it really played off of BioWare's strengths, which is their character storytelling. You look at all of their games in the past, one of the key things about it is how well written their companions are and how well you kind of feel attached to those companions, right? Like, you look back at KOTOR, like Bastila or HK-47 or you go to Jade Empire and look at all the companions from that game that I can't remember the name of. I remember the mad guy with the axes, the cuckold husband who drunk a lot. But point is that characters, and then you see Andromeda with super weak character writing, and that was disappointing. But in any case, real quick, to wrap up this story, though, I found that comment that I was talking of that really hit home about this article. And it was essentially someone responding to, someone posted a link to a video that was essentially a good little essay about Anthem and concerns with it, right? And Jason Schreier, who wrote the article, was pretty much like, a YouTube video with 900,000 views titled, "Why Anthem Should Scare You. Has EA Destroyed BioWare?" Just might be the type of thing that second last paragraph of the article is talking about, that was the paragraph I read to you guys. And then the response to that was, EA has been fucking shitty. Anyone who's coming at the topic from anything like a consumer-oriented perspective should be well aware of that and willing to prioritize it in said analysis. If the entire point here is that I don't work for EA, therefore I can't know the nuances and complexities of how they operate as a corporate entity, that's completely obvious. Still, I don't see how that's my problem. And that was the point I was getting at, is that if there's nuances to the company, that's fine. There's no way for us to know that. They're completely opaque. They share nothing with the outside world. We don't see any budgets. We don't get any developer updates because they're publicly traded. If they were to announce, like, in detail their project guidelines or their project deadlines and all of this stuff and, changes to this and that would destabilize investor trust. And they would lose investors as a result. They would lose share value. That's the reason why they don't do it. So we're never going to see them be any more transparent. Therefore, it's not our problem that if we're not seeing stuff because they don't want to share it. But yeah. Anyway, so then the next thing that I wanted to go on to and get you guys' thoughts on here. And Kev's lack of Googling skills, was that
Google.
And this apparently is just a BioWare focus stream for some strange reason. So yeah, our second topic is all going to be about talking shit about Death Shroud since he's gone. Grim is welcome to fill up the chat with a whole bunch of really toxic stuff about Death Shroud. Right now he's trying to kick all three women out of his bathroom because they just won't leave.
Well, I mean, you got one mirror and three women. That's World War III waiting to happen.
Yeah, I completely get it. But so the next one on there was the story about Dragon Age, the next Dragon Age guys supposedly having live components on there.
Maybe not.
So here's the thing: is that it feels like this information is not really being well articulated. So people hear live. Oh shit! And look at our frame rate tanking.
Well, What are you at one job? Don't keep us at 30 frames per second.
Fucking Comcast. Fuck you, Comcast. That's all I gotta say. Big fuck you to Comcast and watching my upload rate tank. So in any case, though, there was a story that Dragon Age will have live features, or at least that was the leaked information.
Really not.
The problem is that we don't really. That information is very difficult for us to try to get any sort of real information on, because it's like, what do you mean live? What is live? You know,
Not dead.
like that's my major question on there is what do you mean live? We don't really know.
Xbox Live.
Yeah, Xbox Live. So the thing is,
What does that mean?
the thing is that what I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on there is we don't really know what live means. Casey Hudson, the general manager of BioWare Studio, tweeted out in response saying that they're reading lots of feedback regarding Dragon Age, and I think you'll be relieved to see what the team is working on. Story and character focused. Too early to talk details, but when we talk about it live, it just means designing a game for continued storytelling after the main story. What
Can
does
we not
that
make an
mean?
open world?
Well, what does that mean to you guys when you hear him saying that live just means designing a game for continued storytelling after the main story?
Quantum Break.
Think Quantum
I
Break?
think probably lots of
muted.
DLC.
Fable
Lots of
3.
DLC.
Fable 3.
Fable 3? Fuck Fable 3.
1. That's what
My
that.
vote is still probably lots of post-launch DLC story
You know-
driven stuff. Kind of what they did with Inquisition, but more of it.
Do you know what it strikes me as? It strikes me as open world Radiant questline bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Shadow of War. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that they are going to adopt the Shadow of War model where you play through the story, everything's kosher, then you get to Act 4, the final act or whatever, and it turns into an open world base management simulator where loot boxes are heavily pressed into you to help you avoid losing all of those legendary orcs that you have.
Now, see, that's the cynic in you.
I'm just
the
saying.
Optimist to me is hoping more Witcher 3.
I would hope that, but live, I wouldn't classify anything in Witcher 3 as
live.
live.
Might be a bad choice of words.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's more story after the main campaign, you can burn through the main campaign in Witcher 3 and then still play all the side content.
Jesus Christ.
Plus the DLC.
Hearts of Stone is another like 20 hours, and then
and I haven't even started the DLCs. I heard the last one is like another 40-50 hours.
Yeah, it's insane. I haven't even completely finished the final DLC. It's just like Hearts of Stone was like I said,
I haven't even finished the first game.
The first game, aka the sex card collection simulator.
It should though. I'm playing through The Witcher 2. The Witcher 2 is great. The Witcher 3 is better. It's just it feels really dated mechanically, but it's still really good.
It's a swirling simulator.
Except for that first boss fight, that Kieran, that son of a bitch. I hate that boss fight.
So Grim, the article that you read where EA said they would only make multiplayer games, it's not what they said. They actually said something to the effect of they feel like that multiplayer games are the future of gaming. They didn't say they would only make multiplayer games. They said they would like to, though.
Isn't this like a few years ago when there was the rumor that they would only greenlight games with multiplayer in it, and that's why people swore that's why Mass Effect 3 had multiplayer.
I think it's been
recent. Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
But I think it was also an executive from EA that made the statement.
It was an executive who made that statement.
Yeah,
you're correct.
So, and he's not necessarily going to deem that to be the case for all games, like, obviously. Now, the thing is that I would guarantee you that they are definitely going to focus more on that games as a service and the multiplayer components and that sort of thing, because that is a recurrent income for them.
Right, yeah, it's definitely more money. It just, I don't know. I think there has to be a way to balance gaming for everyone. Like, not everyone wants these vast open worlds
Yep.
or of nothing. Not everyone wants multiplayer online all the time. A lot of people don't even play online,
What do you
and
guys?
then you have people who only want that. Like, there has to be a way to make games specifically for each audience.
What do you think about the possibility of Mass Effect having an like a multiplayer component similar to Divinity Original Sin 2, right?
I actually wouldn't
don't
mind
want
that.
Mass Effect to go up.
The-
I don't want not in the main game. The main game I wanted to focus on story and characters, and you lose that when you're in a party because people don't shut the fuck up.
See, to be honest with you, something I
So-
would love from Mass Effect multiplayer would be to have a essentially what they did with Dragon Age, where you have kind of the dungeon crawler, although not necessarily dungeon crawling, more of a progressive mission that's cooperative, right? Instead of being a horde mode where you're on one fixed map and you just try to essentially defend and run around and defend the same spot. Instead,
Drama put out a couple of missions like that, but they were very selective. and
Into
very
the Ruins. Yep.
Mhm.
They did the Into the Ruins mission. I don't know if they ever incorporated that as an actual map. It was more of a map they teased for special missions that got or that.
No, it got incorporated.
Okay.
When you after you guys had left, they started incorporating all those special mission maps. They would incorporate it like 2 months later.
Yeah, well, I figured they would because they had for other ones like Paradox, and there was a couple other ones that that they had for special event missions that it was essentially their way to test those maps and see how they worked, and then they would say, oh, okay, they work good, then they would work on putting them out full time type of thing.
Yeah.
So
The only problem with the extra maps in Andromeda is that they all felt the same and all the new ones kind of sucked. But the best ones were the ones that came with the game.
yeah, like
Sure.
there was I wasn't a big fan of a lot of them because they seemed to be all designed like there was very little good cover like bunker down positions for most of the maps, and that annoyed me a bit. Like I kind of liked, yeah, I like to run around and have fun and all that stuff, except for the fact that it doesn't work well when all of the enemies have hit scan perfect aim. Like you're jumping and dodging means shit whenever the enemies hit you, no matter where you dodge.
Yeah,
So that was
and
kind
the
of a
jump
poor
packs.
idea. Yeah. Oh, I mean the
It's like
jetpacks.
everyone has rocket packs, so
the
it makes
mission
it
you have is Piccolo shouting, "Why didn't you dodge?"
Yeah, well, my
Why don't you die?
the complaint that I always had was I've got this jetpack that allows me some amazing mobility, and I can dodge and jump around all over the place. Except the enemies always hit you no matter where you go. So like the only things that you could dodge were like the superpower attacks, like from the robot guys, the Remnant, the guys that put up the shield in front of them, that would go through cover. You could dodge that, or the super bullet from the big huge giant boss level Remnant, that you could dodge that. But otherwise, just the small fire or the observers, the flying around guys, had perfect aim every time. And it was like, what's the point of having dodging mechanics if you can't actually dodge anything?
It would like track with you as you're dodging.
Yeah, exactly. And that to me was the major that's a mechanical flaw that nobody really discussed, is that I am all for having skill-based dodging in a game. Like, I may not play Dark Souls, but I'm a big fan of how Dark Souls, has skill-based dodging. You have to time things right. It is based upon your input, not some cheesy mechanic, right? And
Dark Souls has its cheesy mechanics too.
well, people joke about the whole just rolling around all the time, like that's the way you do everything. You just roll around constantly. I know the jokes and the memes. What I mean as far as it's based upon your input. You have to dodge. It's not.
You should still play Dark Souls.
Maybe
Get
at
the
some point.
remaster.
I mean,
Get the remaster when it comes out.
but my thing is that was a major mechanical failure, I felt like, and that really made all of the maps. The maps were really heavily pushing the whole. You don't need to bunker down. You can dodge.
I actually missed the bunkering down of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
Yeah.
I feel like the level design and the way the maps were designed for Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, it was still designed with quality in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we live in a world that even over the last few years, it was a quality versus quantity world.
Yeah. Well,
And since in the 2000s, it's really been become about quantity, and you really see that
no,
in a lot of game design these days. Where kind of old BioWare, they were still kind of old school. Everything was still about
no.
quality.
Here's the comedy though. Is it's not even quantity anymore. It's just neither. Because if you look at Mass Effect 3, how many characters did they release? How many weapons? How many maps did you get? So many. And then you look at Mass Effect Andromeda or Dragon Age Inquisition, either one, take your pick. Got a trickle of characters. Nothing really major, just a handful.
Yeah, because they put all the quantity into the single player for those two games.
Andromeda.
Yeah.
These games, though, they give you illusion of quantity with open
With this
world.
massive ass empty open world.
Oh, Major showed up in the chat, so everybody stop talking about him.
Salt.
By the way, Major, Grim called you a pirate. Said that you pirate all the games.
I called him a pirate.
So I didn't play Divinity Original Sin, but you kind of sound like you didn't like the co-op aspect of that game. I thought it was relatively well received.
Oh no, the co-op was actually amazingly well received.
I'm not saying I was against it. I'm just saying I don't want that in my Mass Effect game.
No, I didn't say Mass Effect. I said Dragon Age.
Oh, Dragon Age. Sorry. Yeah, I think that was the confusion because we were talking about Dragon Age, weren't we?
Yeah, we were talking about Dragon Age.
So yeah, so the as far as in a Dragon Age game, I actually feel like that it could work, especially if you honestly, if you kind of take the basic formula of the storytelling in Divinity Original Sin 2, which is fucking amazing, of the origin stories. We bring back Dragon Age Origins, where we have the different origin characters, because little known fact about Dragon Age Origins, if you say you pick the human warrior, the other origin stories still happen in the game storyline. It's just that Duncan was never there for those particular origin stories, so they all died. You actually get hints about the different characters, like for example the dwarf noble. The dwarf noble getting killed in Orzammar and so on and so forth. Essentially, that all those other origin story characters existed simultaneously. It was just the differing factor was where was Duncan. Duncan saved one of them, the rest all died. And I think that if they did something like those origin stories for a new Dragon Age game, and they made it where you could do co-op, where if you did co-op, you would essentially do like Divinity Original Sin, where you have the Red Prince and you have Sabine and all of these like kind of origin characters, and the person who jumps in as the co-op character takes control of another one of those pinnacle characters. There's no one single protagonist in Divinity Original Sin 2. It's it's a group of people. And that's, I think, an easy way for them to do that. And I think that Dragon Age could do that as well. Instead of the godly, character from Inquisition, the Inquisitor, who is the only person like them, etc., etc., they could do a group of special people, and that would solve that problem and make it easy for them to do co-op. Shroud has girls tied up in his basement. Good grief.
Basement. Shroud has a basement. I don't have a basement.
Let's not go there. That's not.
You're alluding to the truth of the his house.
Xaiphen calling him out. That Lieutenant Rios Grimm, you need to salute. A major outranks you.
Just put that out there. Yeah.
I would like to let everybody know there are no basements in Florida. Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Because
They're not called basements. They're called underground swimming pools.
Well, damn, that makes them a grave.
Yeah.
Travis out here kidnapping and murdering bitches, man.
Shit getting dark real quick here.
Alright, guys, when the FBI shows up at my door, I'm blaming all of you.
Oh my god, I just realized, is that the door to go out of your apartment? So if you get swatted, do we get to watch the whole scene live?
That's just to my room, but yeah, you do get to watch the entire scene live.
Because I feel like that would be a great way to go about it. But yeah, no. In any case, though, going back to the kind of the story, though, is I think that it would be a good way to handle multiplayer is if you did the simultaneous origin stories, and kind of had them all simultaneously happening, and then you could have people drop in for it. If they went the solo godlike protagonist like Inquisition, there's no way, because who are you gonna play as? You're gonna play as the not Dovahkiin character. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to play Skyrim and not play the Dovahkiin. That just kind of takes away from the whole purpose of it.
I mean, does it? I mean, does it really? Honestly, like looking back at it, like I understand, but like it. Maybe it's just because I think Skyrim's a bad game, but like I don't. Like,
story wise, their Skyrim is pretty garbage for story. It
makes it up for, I think, in mechanics.
The way that the environmental storytelling works though is pretty solid. It honestly, my thing is that it's not really the best Elder Scrolls game. It is probably the fourth best Elder Scrolls game. Guess what? There's been 5 of them, so
yeah,
I think that it places ahead of Arena. So
Arena, very first one.
yes, and it was kind of a it was a lot. It was a lot of. It was the weakest one, I think, in the series. I think Daggerfall or Morrowind are both probably close to strongest. But I guess my major point is that Kev has the best, loudest keyboard that he has right next to his mic.
Yes!
Wow.
That was raw.
Ugh.
It's the boom stand.
I
'Cause now I have my boom stand, so now I have the mic right here, and it's glorious.
I think that I need to like have a one-touch mute just for Kev. That probably will work best.
Peasantry.
That's gonna become a soundbite now, though. We need to put that on like a on a
people
soundboard.
already
Chats.
that's already like his like signature line. I hear people all the time like I say something about Kev and someone's like glorious as a response. So it's already like
you see it on Twitter. I see something that's glorious, and I'll get hit with like glorious gifts.
I need Kev's number so I can set that as his ringtone.
yes.
Apparently, you are cannibal.
Oh.
I'm
So-
a cannibal now too. Okay.
Not a cannibal. He said cannibal, as in you can be canned.
Oh, I'm a cannibal. Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If one of the girls that Travis has tied up looks good enough, yeah, we'll replace it for him.
No. He's cannibal.
Cannibal. Then we'll ditch his ass with a pretty chick.
Yeah. Well,
Instead of chicken in a can, it's Travis in a can.
yeah, but no. So what? My question is that when you guys, whenever live content gets, like whenever they try to add a live component on there. Oh, thank you very much, Major, for subscribing to the channel as it just took over the chat. Good stuff. However, my question is, whenever people add live content to games, how do you guys generally see as being the right way to add live components to a single player game? Like obviously we have bad examples like Fable 3. That was a pretty garbage way of doing it. But what do you guys think are some right ways to do it?
Wow. I caught half the question.
Yeah.
I got still processing.
as in whenever a game is single player primarily, like a franchise is single player primarily, and they want to add some kind of online functionality, be it multiplayer or otherwise, how do you guys feel is the best way to handle that?
I don't think there is a good way to handle it. I really think you're never gonna make both audiences happy. Like there are people out there that just want to play their single player. You can't force multiplayer and co-op into every game like that.
Is like, I think Fable 2 was okay. I never actually finished Fable 3. I didn't really even get started in it, so I can't tell. Fable 2 seemed okay.
I think I'm the only person who liked Fable 3. I'm throwing that out there.
Well, I can't say I didn't like it. I just never, spent
See, I didn't like Fable 2. That's what I didn't like it at all.
enough time into Fable 3 to dislike it. Let me put it that way, dislike it or like it. But Fable 2, it had closure to the story. which is an important facet of a single player, a story-driven single player. You need a decent closure to the story, not like Mass Effect 3. And a good way to you need to figure out a way to have the environment transition away from the opening and closing of a story. And like I said, Fable 2 seemed to be okay with that, where, all right, here is the signature event of this environment here, and now the event is done, but the environment still exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world around you doesn't stop turning just because your story is over. That's more or less what you want to try and get across people on ending a single player environment, is like, more or less showing them instead of just saying, and now the rest of the story.
Oh, like the
What?
one of the things that bugs me about a lot of games is when they end the game, they have the epilogue that's told in cards. Like,
I hate
and this person went off to do this, and this person went off to do this. Dragon Age does that a lot, by the way. It annoys the shit out of me. Like, seriously, how about tell us? Don't show, like, or don't tell us, show us. Show us what they did, how about, yeah.
All in text like that, that just smacks of laziness. Like, and we're hitting a deadline right here. We don't have enough time to finish development of this game, so here's some cards. And it's not even but because it's a key component of the story, the main story on there, they can't just throw it out as DLC working on it after launch.
Mm-hmm.
What about like Hitman?
The new one
was described. Yeah, the new one was described as a live game, and they're still doing weekly contracts.
Yeah, so
where they have
essentially
like a weekly mission. It could be something like that.
I think how Hitman handles it is actually pretty brilliant. I like the way that they... Now, I'm not sure about the value proposition of it. I can't remember how much the new episodes cost or whatever, but when they first...
the full game is out. You can get the full game on the
Okay, so the full episode... Because I know they were releasing it episodically, and I was kind of like...
Yeah, the whole game is out. The whole game's been out for over a year.
Okay.
And then they do like weekly missions.
I think it's about time that we timed Grim out from chat. He's
Grim is saying I need to start explaining plot points to people.
Yeah, apparently.
My feels, man.
And Major's talking about how he snuck away from work.
Plot points.
But no more glory for Kev. I think that should be a trending hashtag. But so no, in any case, I think that the way that Fable 1 and 2 both kind of did after the story ends, you can still wander around and do stuff. That's nice because it allows you to kind of finish up those collectibles that you never got to finish getting or whatever. And it also,
I think a lot of RPGs do that now too.
Yeah.
You think of something like even going back to like as early I can think of is Fallout 3. Fallout 3 did that.
Well, I mean,
Mass Effect 2 even did it.
All of Bethesda's guys typically do it, except for New Vegas. New Vegas was the only one that said, "Roll credits, your ass is done."
Mm-hmm.
But
to the point where they had to make it a thing for Fallout 4.
Yeah, but aside from that, though, I think that when I hear live content, having an open-ended ending is nice. I also think that with the way that Hitman does it, that's kind of an interesting live component piece to it, where it's still a single-player game. There's no multiplayer as far as I'm aware. There might be, but I mean, as far as single-player content, essentially where you have your base game, you play through your base game, and then you have weekly contracts you can do, which are on new maps, new people. I know that they were advertising all of their like killing Gary Busey and all these famous people. You'd essentially get to assassinate celebrities, and there was a lot
with that. Give us a tradition.
There was a lot of jokes behind that. It was like Gary Oldman or Gary Busey, and they had the community vote on who would be the target. And everybody
they didn't vote for a Kardashian. I'm disappointed.
No, it was between Gary Busey and Gary Oldman, and they all voted for Gary Busey because I guess less people like him or something.
I just want a chance to take out a Kardashian.
Mm-hmm. They're not really celebrities. They're celebrities.
Well, I mean, one's a porn star.
It's like Vita as actual cheese.
Yeah. But no, so I think having that kind of like continual content is nice. It's one of the reasons why Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, I like the kind of the weekly events and that sort of thing, because it kind of gets people excited. Hey, ooh, it's the weekend. I know there's going to be a new thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
That is a nice way to continue engagement with players. I feel like that Bioware is starting to move away from that, as we've seen evidenced in Andromeda, where they had absolutely none of that in the multiplayer.
Did they have that in Dragon Age Inquisition?
At first, yeah. They had that for a good little while. They had weekly events, and they would pit the different consoles against each other, which really wasn't fair because, and they eventually balanced this a little bit better, where PS3 and Xbox 360 had much lower goals than everybody else because they had a fraction of the player base. Like PS4 and PC had by far the most people. They would hit big goals, no problem. Xbox One was kind of in a stuck place because they were not nearly on the tier of PS4 or PC, but they were not necessarily, they weren't as small as Xbox 360 and PS3. So,
I mean, that's kind of the way things are with Xbox these days anyway.
yeah, but
Blame
They were-
2013.
yeah, they were too busy.
You want
covering their
offline?
asses.
Get an Xbox 360.
All I'm saying, God, that was a disaster comment. Like
They're still paying for it.
they're still paying for it to this day. That shows the power of how on point your marketing has to be. It has now been how many years later? 6 years since he made that statement, I think. Something like that.
It's a 5. It'll be coming up on 5 in May.
Yeah. So 5 years since he made that statement, and they are still paying for that. Still.
Well, that and I think Sony's the worldwide brand anyway.
Yeah.
Not even fanboy there. I think Sony has always been the worldwide brand. I think the problem is with last generation, the 360 did so well because the PlayStation 3 launched so fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got greedy. Well, no. So
and then they eventually kind of caught up.
So the whole thing with my face is tired meme, that didn't derail constructive discussion towards the game. There was
My
still
face is tired from that comment.
there still was a lot of good criticism that got to BioWare. I know this for fact because I was involved in a lot of those discussions and I got to see the constructive criticism coming towards them, and the criticism of the game was on point. Even if they fixed all of the animation bugs, the game is still average. And that's not because of bugs in the game or the completely non-functioning multiplayer at launch. Jesus Christ, couldn't even get into the multiplayer for the first week because every time prime time the servers would go down. But even with that, after they fixed all of that, the game was still fundamentally flawed. Yeah, but memes are all that everybody ever talks about, though. That's my thing.
Meme life, yeah. Who doesn't like memes?
That's the reason, the entire reason why we have Ethan in our Discord server is because he is the keeper of memes.
I'm more about gifts myself.
But Major said, "Trust me, I am aware of the mediocrity of Andromeda. He is well aware because he knows mediocrity intimately."
Are we calling him Major Mediocre?
Major mediocrity. There we go.
Mediocre.
But no, so my question then is that
and it Major, if you want to defend your good name, get back on the podcast. Otherwise, we're not listening.
we have that 5-person layout that we have not busted out in a while. I'm just saying, unsubscribed. But
Really unsub?
I'm just saying, I've got that 5-person layout. I haven't busted out in a while. You know, it's just waiting. It's waiting for Major to be like, I'm gonna tell you guys what the fuck's up.
Trying to encourage him to come on the podcast.
You work Saturday mornings. You're not working now. It's called VTO, or AKA plain hooky. You feel sick every Saturday morning for some reason. I'm not sure why, Major.
See, that's how you end up, not having to go to work anymore at all.
Yeah, I suppose that is one way that happens, or be me. And then everybody's like, you're awesome. You can work whenever you feel like. Nobody really cares. That's not actually the way any of that works. And I'm just full of shit. But, so then the last thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on, me and Travis will shit talk you guys for doing Blades this week. Yeah, he was already talking about. You missed his talking about Blades. He's our tabletop guy now, since he doesn't actually game otherwise.
Since he doesn't actually look, right, I've actually got some good news for you after this podcast that we might be able to discuss. Speaking of that 5-person layout.
He's gonna bring a girl on. I'm just kidding.
The Return of Ravis.
But yeah, so my last bit that I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on is that recently and this is kind of a little bit off the topic of gaming, but still kind of in the realm of what's affecting us, because obviously the whole net neutrality thing has been coming up a lot this week. Travis's camera didn't do anything. It's just that he's so awesome that apparently it overloads his camera, and that's what happens. So
I thought he was just on a potato.
So net neutrality it has been coming up a lot this week, and I did want to really quickly cover it with our last few minutes on here. There's been a lot of states that have taken an interesting approach, and I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on this, where essentially their manner of essentially telling the FCC to go screw themselves is by doing state executive orders saying that if a cable company does not abide by net neutrality rules, that they will pull any contracts with that cable company.
I love it.
It's not a law. It's not saying that the ISPs are required to do anything by law. It's just more or less saying, oh, you want us with your state contracts? They're probably worth significant amounts of money, especially New York was one of them. I imagine that Comcast or whoever is the dominant guy in New York City probably has a beefy government contract. So
it's the same thing that the federal government uses to promote 21-year-old drinking age, right? States are legally allowed to set it lower, but they lose highway funding.
Oh, is that why all the roads are so crappy in Louisiana?
Well,
that's why I keep hitting all these potholes.
That is an interesting. I actually was not aware that's how they did the drinking age stuff.
I believe that's
yeah, it's not just highways. It's there's the political game of states get federal funding for federally oriented projects, which can include interstate highways and various other things that federal funding would go toward. Mm-hmm. If state doesn't play ball with things that states actually have their own control over, if they don't, more or less try to show a form of unity with the other states in a federal format, the feds can say, well, we're going to cut your, the particular state's funding for, say, your highways or whatever, they choose to. Well, again, political game. And like similar effect going on right now, too, alternative to, or going along with the net neutrality thing. There are some municipalities that are running their own local net fiber.
That's what Kev has that. He's got municipal fiber. Well, I don't know if it's fiber, but it's municipal internet.
And Verizon are lobbying federal legislature to pass laws forcing municipal-run internet to allow private companies to take over. And that's the thing, is not take over as it stands. They are trying to work up legislation to allow the municipalities to have paid the startup funding into building the infrastructure, and the private companies would be allowed to take over without having to pay back into any of that, and additionally on top of that are not required to meet the prices that the municipalities were charging the customers. It's like, they're trying to really just anytime somebody's trying to find a route around cable or like ISP gouging, they are trying to work their way back around that. They're countering everybody's angle around it.
If anybody is foolish enough to think that they do not have a monopoly mentality to this whole game, you're not paying attention. But so what do you think? What do you think that it's a good idea for the states to take this approach? To
Yes,
Yes, it is.
the
I
state.
think it's way
I
too.
think we're at a point now where the states are more interested in the people than the national legislature is.
Sad.
Well,
Yes.
I think we're getting dangerously close to having internet being considered a full utility service, such
It should
as
be.
electricity and
it should
water.
be.
I
To
mean,
be
it should be,
frankly,
yeah.
yeah, because it's
Yeah,
at this
absolutely.
point it is a requirement for your day-to-day life. You
But I
know,
think we're getting closer to it that being a publicly acceptable idea.
I love that that's an idea.
We
Like,
were
how often can you get like
on the verge of
any
that,
job
and,
really
and
without
current
internet?
administration reversed the definitions of that.
Yeah, well, my thing is that when you look at internet in general, and you kind of you kind of sum it up like the way, like for example, water companies, electric companies, those are independent companies, and they can make a profit. That's fine. They usually get subsidy money from governments so that they're not charging customers exorbitant prices and so on. Well, the thing is that ISPs want it all. They want the subsidies, they want the profit from customers, but they don't want to have to submit to any sort of regulation.
And they also don't want to have to pay for any infrastructure or backend. They want the government.
Exactly. They want the
Usually.
government to
Well, I
pay
guess
for
that's
it.
I guess that's technically subsidy, but yeah.
Well, that's a lot of ways where the government does subsidize for power companies and water companies. Sometimes depending on, and this varies from area to area. This is local level legislation on how it's handled. Some areas government contracts all, like say power line or water line work or whatever utility line work. However, some areas the company that, like the power company or the water company, is responsible for managing all of that. It's all depending on the way that they work out the deal with the city or the county or the state or whatever. But to be honest with you, though, that's rolled into their subsidy payments. I think it would be overall a well balanced way to handle it because of the fact that internet is kind of required nowadays.
Like I said, how do you do schoolwork? How do you get a job?
Mhm.
How do you find most shit without an internet connection these
And
days?
that's the thing. Well, it
Like,
absolutely is because okay, our standard phones, wireline phones, under that same classification. Communication is considered a requirement. Well, we've gone from mail to telegraph to phones to internet. It's just a natural stage of evolution of communication, of electronic communication, or long distance communication. Yes, absolutely, it is a utility. It's a communication utility.
Yeah, and
I mean, I'm going even deeper than that. I've yet to be able to buy a single pair of pants since high school without going online because I'm too damn tall. I can't just walk into a department store and just buy pants. I'm too tall for them.
yeah, like
So I've been buying pants online since high school.
well, the thing
Mm.
is, I think a lot of it is that and that's what the FCC was originally trying to do, classifying ISPs as Title II. That put them in the same boat as phone service providers. And the thing is back in the 90s and early 2000s when we had dial-up internet, those phone companies were classified and handled under antitrust laws and that sort of thing. They already had protections that they had to follow in place. So the phone companies that were operating through like AOL or whatever couldn't gouge people like they can now. The cable companies weren't regulated under any of those laws back then. So they could get away, and that's the reason why cable companies became the dominant force. They essentially muscled out phone companies with dial-up internet, and partly because they had just better products, right? But partly because they were able to do things without any of the restrictions that were on phone companies. And that's something that a lot of people, obviously most people are younger nowadays, and or not most people, but a lot of people on the internet nowadays are younger and don't always know about it, so they don't really
They
know
don't
that
know.
history.
I mean, a lot of younger people don't know a lot of our history. You make a good point.
Yeah.
Hell, I was talking to my eldest son. I think I told my eldest son preteen, who was confused when I told him that racism's a thing.
Well,
And it's because they're not really taught history.
no, and the thing is all it's all. I guess the environment in which you're raised. Some areas you're raised in, you just racism. I don't even understand that. Other areas you're raised in, oh yeah,
Oh,
racism
I
is
was
very
raised in the
real.
same area. I'm very aware.
Yeah,
Like
like
I'm still in the same area.
yeah. It's well, I mean, like if you go to Florida, for example, you know, Travis.
Mhm.
I just throwing Florida under the bus. No, I mean,
It's
but
okay. I do it all the time, so it's
no.
fine.
Here's the fun thing is here's a fun little fact. When they've done more recent polling and research, they found out like when they did research on like say Alabama, right? If I told you Alabama versus New York, which state do you think would have more issues with racism?
New York.
Yeah. Like most people would say Alabama, right? Because good old boys and stuff. Nope, they're actually less so. But anyway, that's kind of diverging off the topic. I just wanted to kind of bring up the net neutrality thing because it was something that I had heard about this past week, and I was like, that's an interesting way to kind of tackle the problem from the state level because the FCC comically and the mayor of Montana actually pointed this out when he was doing his shtick, and we'll get into final thoughts just after this. But when he was kind of rolling out his shtick on that executive order, what he said, and this was great, he was pretty much saying that the FCC said that they do not have the ability to regulate the internet, or they should not have the ability to regulate the internet in that way. So they were deregulating it. And at the same time, they were trying to say that the states shouldn't be allowed to regulate it either. They were trying to preempt states from making any rules on net neutrality. And he was saying it's contradictory. Either you don't have the power to enforce anything here, or you do. And it's pretty much either you should be enforcing net neutrality because you have the power to do so, or you don't have the power to do so, so you can't stop us from doing it.
Right.
You can't have it both ways, and that kind of shows the agenda behind it, behind the FCC's ruling, is that they essentially more or less said, well, the FCC doesn't have the power to really make any rules on
The
internet
Federal
usage.
Communications Commission does not feel they should be in charge of a communication tool like the internet, the most powerful communication tool known to man today.
Oh yeah, well I mean, come on now. Have you guys seen the video that came out right before the net neutrality vote of Egypt Pie essentially like in a Santa outfit with fidget spinners and a Nerf gun? I'm not even joking. He pretty much just like whipped out his cock and said, "You guys can fucking suck it. I don't care." Like he
The thing is, like, every once in a while, you see people in real life. In real life, they are caricatures. Like, I don't mean like a racist caricature. Like, well, in his case, it kind of is, I guess, because like to me, he seems like a caricature of the white person impersonation of a black comedian.
well, he's not
I
black.
don't know. I thought I said that before. That's exactly what he seems like.
But he's,
Everything about him.
he's not black.
He's a living caricature.
I'm
Blacksucker!
pretty certain that he comes from Indian descent, but
Yeah.
he was born and raised in America. He's very, very much American.
But like his mannerisms, the way he acts and talks, he sounds like. Well, it's not any race in particular at all. That's the thing.
He's just a character, sir.
That is a black comedian doing an impersonation of a white person.
Yeah, the thing is that it's essentially by the way, Major, you spelled Egypt wrong. It's not Egypt Pie, it's Eegit. Egypt. It's Irish slang for an idiot or a fool.
I was about to say,
So
isn't
that's his
Is it
first name is
S-H-I-T-Pie?
Egypt Pie.
Shit pie.
I have not said his proper name in like 2 months. It's Egypt Pie. That is forever going to be his name. So yeah, I think that he definitely is a caricature. He's almost like a physical embodiment of an internet troll. Really is.
Yeah, he is, especially with that video.
Yeah, that video was just pretty much trolling everybody, saying like, I don't care what the entire population of the vast majority of the people in the United States say. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want because I don't care. That was pretty much what he was saying, and disregard all of the public comments on it and so on. And that's the reason why I think 22 U.S. states are suing the FCC, is because they didn't go about this whole thing in the proper manner. They were by law are required to consider comment from the public, and they did not.
Didn't?
Yeah, they just pretty much they opened the public comment forum. 98% of real people commenting said they were against repealing net neutrality, and they just pretty much disregarded all of those, and then they just went ahead and repealed it, which to me was just kind of like, ugh, come on now, you and that's why they're suing him. But in any case, let's roll this through the final thoughts, because we could just rant on about net neutrality for another hour. Try not to do that because we have a problem with that.
Yes.
I mean, is it really a problem? I don't see it as a problem. I think it's, hey, look, Ray.
If we admit it, right?
It's
Discussion-
the
discussion-
first step in is admitting you have a problem.
No, I won't admit that having a discussion on net neutrality is a problem that's like never gonna be an issue for me.
As you
But
see a random ponytail running out the room, I'm free.
So
Just so everybody on this podcast knows, no, I do not keep women tied up in any location.
I don't know why Grim
he
was
lets the limbs free. It's more fun that way.
I don't know why Grim was going on about that. He gets a little weird sometimes. I don't really know what's going on there, but apparently us joking about you having a very vibrant social life turned into you being potentially like a sexual predator and or a serial killer. I don't know exactly how he conflated those two, because they're not the same.
Not entirely sure, yeah.
In any case, though, Kev, final thoughts for the week.
I had some too. God of War is coming April 20th. Glad about that. It's gonna be glorious. Pony up, get your PlayStation 4s. All the games are coming. Persona 5 is coming, and that's all I have for right now. I'm gonna keep playing with my boom mic. I hope it sounds better this week, because I intentionally got the boom stand to help with my mic quality, because I'm ditching the Razer product.
All right, everybody, stop. We're done.
I need to find a good set of headphones first.
Shut this shit down.
Then I'm retiring this headset.
Shut it down, guys. We're done. We're done here.
Oh no, I'm keeping all the Razer, other Razer stuff. I'm keeping the mouse mat and keeping the mouse and the keyboard and the speakers. And I might get the webcam, and I might get the headphone stand.
Shut Kev down. Major. The entire reason we had Kev on this podcast was because he was a Razer fanboy. He's selling something to Razer. He's done. You're fired, Kev.
I'm thinking about selling. I just said I'm retiring it.
Did you say you're canning him as if he's cannibal?
I thought we already agreed.
Dad,
That's Travis cannibal, because we will can him and get a nice girl with big tits on here. Glorious.
Xaiphen, final thoughts.
Games and stuff. We do that here, right?
Xaiphen, or not, well, Xaiphen doesn't know that. We know that Shaw doesn't play games.
Rug phaser.
I play games. What are you talking about?
He plays tabletop games. That counts.
Tabletop games are still games.
Hashtag tabletops are games too.
How to keep your hair longer before people report her missing is not a game, Travis.
Hashtag tabletop games matter.
Razer Master Race.
Although don't actually tweet that out. You will get crucified for that online if you actually tweet out that hashtag. Anything
Which hashtag?
Any hashtag that has a word and ends in matter, will get crucified on the internet, apparently.
Green matter.
Green discs matter, but not very much.
Good stuff. Travis, any other final thoughts?
I definitely want to get back into video games. That's not something. That's not something. Look, right? It'll happen when it happens, and when it happens, it'll be a big deal.
So I just like to put it out there that essentially what Travis is saying is that he's looking for a sugar mama right now that will get him a nice new gaming PC. So if you're out there, sugar mama ladies, Travis would like you to know that you can reach him at 555-921-2121 anytime today.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Well, that means you have to stop having random scallywags in your house, bruh. They see him on the podcast running out in the background. We hear him talking and fighting over the mirror.
Oh yeah, by the way, while I'm thinking about it and the other final thoughts on there, Kev, what was that you were saying about streaming stuff on Twitch?
Streaming?
Was that about streaming stuff on Twitch?
We're streaming on Twitch right now.
Are we? Is that what that's called?
I mean, it's called something. I don't know what you're getting at.
Are you going to be streaming the damn games on the Twitches?
Eventually.
Eventually.
I'm not set up to do it right this second, but eventually.
He got the mic upgrade, so we're getting there.
In any case, I need to get those headphones first.
Yeah, got to get new headphones so that you cannot hear what's going on.
Yeah.
But wait, Razer headphones are good though, right?
Oh, they are. I just want to get my better mic going, and I'm tired of these damn things dying on me because I refuse to plug them in and charge them.
That is a legitimate problem.
Problems.
So, in any case, so as far as final thoughts on here, obviously, we do the podcast here every other week, and then on the off week, we have this wonderful game stream where we, at least three of us here, the fourth one is too busy.
One of us doesn't play games, and another one of us.
One of us is too busy in his tabletop fantasy world. But so that the three of us here stream games, make fun of each other religiously. It's great times. We occasionally have on other people who embarrass us horribly because they know the games we play better than we do. It's a curse of being stuff. But anyway, also, obviously, if you're just tuning in here, there's links to all the good old Twitters and YouTubes and Twitches and stuff down below here. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, there'll also be similar links down below. Although I cannot keep up with Kev's branding, so whatever his name happens to be this week, I still haven't updated the overlay because I'm not sure if he's keeping it Kevin N7, but we'll find out.
We will.
Anyway, we're gonna get signed off here this week. We'll be back 2 weeks for the next podcast, or 1 week for the next game streak. He's trying to slide in the praise Gaben thing like it's some kind of. Ugh! Stop it.
Praise Yoshida.
Stop it. We're out of here, guys. Have fun.
The internet is really, really great for porn. I got a fast connection, so I don't have to wait for porn.
Avenue Q is a legend.
Oh my! I'm gonna mute you guys so that way there's no more of that nonsense
Praise
that
Gaben!
comes through here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Hear me?
Nobody's loading.
I know. I hear Kev. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Are you getting any feedback issues on your own voice?
No.
I think I solved that issue. I think I know what it was. It had to do with my audio card.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm actually doing.
Yeah,
I'm
when
getting-
the
we call
mic
them
and
the-
the speaker output through the same card, it didn't like that.
Yeah, I'm getting some like echo feedback from my own voice.
That's just you, Travis.
Yeah, that's probably just me. Anyways, so yeah, that's really frustrating. I don't know why I'm like, so it's like I'm getting like feedback on my own voice through my speaker.